Welcome. My name is Joe, and we're going to do a practice moving into one of my favorite variations of side plank with a bit of a hip opener. We used to do this way back when I was an Anusara teacher years and years ago. We used to do this a lot back then, early 2000s. But it was sometimes challenging for people to figure out how to get into this particular pose. So I tend to approach it a bit differently now than I did then. If you'd like to join in, go ahead and come to, if you're using a mat, the front of the mat. You don't have to have a mat. You can just stand on the floor. And just take a moment, line your feet up with each other, a comfortable distance width apart, knees facing generally forward, second toes facing generally forward, knees tracking towards second toes, knees tracking towards second toes. You can shift the weight forward and back in your feet a little bit here. Eventually coming to a place that feels pretty balanced between the front and the back of your feet. Wiggle your toes a bit. And then with your next inhale, go ahead and lift the toes up. And notice the muscles of your feet engage when you lift the toes up. They start working. Exhale, go ahead and release. With your next inhale, curl the toes under. Pull the toes back towards your heels. And notice the arches of your feet probably really pulled up there. Exhale, go ahead, release. Wiggle your toes again. With your next inhale, lift your toes up, trying to keep the toes lifting. Press down through the front of the foot in front of the arch and pull it towards the back of your foot behind the arch and see if you can feel your arches lifting up a little bit here. Trying to keep your arches pulling up as you press down through the foot in front and behind the arch, those two spots. Spread your toes nice and wide apart if your toes will move for you, and they might not, and that's fine. And then you can lower the toes down to the ground, pressing the toes into the earth, pressing the front part of the foot into the ground, trying not to curl the toes under, pulling the front part of the foot towards the back of your foot, pressing your heel, the back of your foot down too. Breathing here. So the arch is lifting up, the rest of your foot really rooted down, feeling the feet on the ground and feeling the ground, the earth, the floor supporting you. Feel the leg muscles hugging into the bone, but the knee joints a little bit soft. Feel the muscles around the hips hugging in, including pelvic floor muscles lifting in and up. Feel the low ribs pulling, drawing in towards the spine, so your core is gently engaged, just enough to support the low back, to support you. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders gently on the back, head and neck stacked above the rest of the spine. Feel the breath flowing through you here. And with your next exhale, anchor from the hips down through the legs, into the feet, into that support of the earth underneath you, except for feel the arch is a little bit light, a little bit bright, a little bit lifting. Breathe. You can let your eyes be soft or closed for a moment here, and just let yourself settle into the flow of the breath, feeling the air on the nostrils, and then feeling the body, the lungs in particular, moving with the breath, with the air. So on the inhales, the lungs expand out. On the exhales, they soften back in. You can let the breath begin to lengthen and deepen if you'd like, balancing out the inhales and the exhales. And maybe with every exhale, grounding down from the hips, down through the legs, into the feet, into that support of the earth, letting yourself feel steady, letting yourself feel supported. With your inhales, maybe feeling the arches of the feet lift, but also feeling the lungs expanding from inside out, and maybe just feeling your sense of self becoming larger, becoming grander as the torso inflates and expands. On the exhale, grounding from the hips through the feet into the earth, and letting your skin soften back on that fullness, that brightness of that sense of self. Breathe. And let yourself settle into the flow of the breath. Throughout class, I invite you to be connected to the flow of the breath. And I also invite you to be connected to yourself. So being connected to that sense of self, physically, mentally, emotionally. Honoring whatever that is, whatever it's telling you right now, and letting that guide your practice. Feel free to do different variations. Feel free to insert different poses. Feel free to just do small adjustments. Whatever works for you today. Moving with that sense of self, letting that guide you, and doing what works for you today. Even if what I say sounds like a command, that's just shorthand. So moving, breathing, flowing, that's what I ask you to do. Maybe trying to stay connected to the breath. But however that looks for you today. We will start with an Om. If you'd like to join in, I'll exhale, inhale, and then Om. Exhaling. Inhale deeply. Om. exhale, go ahead. You can release your hands softly, open your eyes. Notice how you feel. My feet are getting a little bit tired here, but it's not painful, so I'm staying connected. But if you need to, again, shake things out and do some things here, go ahead and do that. When you feel ready, anchoring from the hips down through the feet into the earth again. Inhale, arms can come wide and reach up high. Exhale, lower the arms back to the sides. Inhale, arms can come wide and reach up high. Left hand can grab right wrist. Exhale, leaning over to the left side. Inhale up to center, right hand, left wrist. Exhale to the right. Inhale up to center, left hand, right wrist. Exhale to the left. Inhale up to center, right hand, left wrist. Exhale to the right. Inhale up to center, left hand, right wrist. Exhale to the left. Inhale up to center, right hand, left wrist. Exhale to the right. Inhale up to center, interlace the hands, turn the palms away from you, but rest the back of the hands on your head. And again, feel free to take a moment, shake out legs here if you're starting to feel some fatigue there. But then setting the feet back up, lining the feet up with each other again, knees and toes facing generally forward, anchoring down through the hips into the feet, but maybe a little lift through the arches. And then from here, maybe feel the low ribs gently hugging in and lift the spine up out of the hips as you keep the hips anchoring and rooting down. Breathe. With your next inhale, if you'd like, you can extend the arms straighter towards the sky. And then exhale, you can bend the elbows out to the side. Inhale, maybe extending the arms straighter. Exhale, maybe bending the elbows. Inhale, extending the arms straighter, perhaps holding here, pressing from the hips to the feet, connecting to the earth. The toes can be like roots as the low ribs lift your back up. And then with your next inhale, you can slide the shoulders up towards the ears if you'd like. And exhale and slide the shoulders away. Inhale, sliding the shoulders up towards the ears. Exhale, the shoulders away. Inhale, the shoulders up towards the ears if that works for you. Pressing from the hips to the feet into the earth with those low ribs, lifting the spine up out of the hips, reaching up to the palms, reaching up to the head, feeling the breath flow through you. And then exhale, release the arms to the sides. You can do shoulder rolls up and on the back. And you can do shoulder rolls forward as you breathe. And again, coming to a place in center, but maybe shaking out the feet again. So if you're feeling a little fatigued through those, just shake them out. And then connecting again, lining them up, rooting down from the hips to the feet into the earth. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath guiding you. With your next exhale, release the hands to the side, knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bending the knees, Utkatasana. Arms only lifting up as much as feels good for the shoulders. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bend the knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips here. Exhale, just feel the shoulders a little bit on the back. And then with your next inhale, if you want to, you can straighten the legs. Be careful not to press your knees backwards. Exhale, bend the knees, knees as wide apart as your feet. Keep the spine nice and long. Inhale and straightening the legs, however much feels good for you. Exhale, bend the knees, knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale and straightening the legs here with the legs moderately straight or relatively straight. Keeping the spine nice and long. Exhale, slide the hands as far down the legs as feels good for you. Now your back might try to round a little bit here, and as long as you feel okay and you feel the spine trying to lengthen out the hips, that's fine. Inhale, you can slide the hands up higher on the legs. Exhale, sliding the hands down lower. Inhale, hands sliding up higher. Exhale, hands lower. Trying to lengthen the spine out of the hips. So maybe feel the thighs and the hips pressing back a little bit. Be careful not to jam your knees backwards. And feel the armpits and the chest stretching forward. Inner edges of the armpits as much as outer. Breathing here. And then if you like to let the back round, if that feels good for your spine, you can engage your core gently and exhale, let the back round and full. Inhale, slide the hands up the legs maybe and lengthen. Exhale, maybe slide the hands down and full. Inhale, slide the hands up and lengthen. Exhale, slide the hands down and fold, pressing down through the feet, hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up to standing. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. With your next exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Shift your weight to your right foot. Hands can move too. And then as you're ready, good size step back with your left foot. Right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. Now maybe you like that left heel down, and you can keep that left heel down. That's fine. Maybe you like the left heel lifted. Maybe you like to slide that foot a little bit back further. All of these are options. Press down through your feet, hug into your hips. inhale, stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips if this works for you. And then if you want, you can lower the left hand to the ground. Now, if the ground is too far away and you do have yoga blocks handy, you can always bring hands to blocks instead. But if this doesn't work for you, you can always keep your hands on the leg, but seeing what works in your body. Press down to your feet, hug into your hips, stretch the spine nice and long. Turn your chest to the right if you want to, and maybe lift the right hand up to the sky, breathing here. And so if your hands were still on the leg, what you might do is bend your elbows, lean a little bit forward here, and then do a little bit of a twist here. The balance is a bit more challenging, so at that point you might want to step the back foot in and have the heel down. But again, you can kind of play around and see what works in your body, breathing wherever you're at. So if you did lift the hand up to the sky, which you can do, so you can lift the right hand up to the sky and breathe here. You can lower that hand back down, maybe all the way to the ground. Press down to your right foot as you're ready, and slide, wiggle, scoot, step the left foot forward. Then as you feel ready, inhale, hands up the legs, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, hands slide down and forward, press down to the feet, nice long spine. Arms come wide, reach all the way up toward the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees in Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Shift your weight to your left leg. Right foot goes back. And again, maybe it's a small stance. Maybe you keep the back heel down, lengthen the spine here. And maybe you twist here, turning the chest. Maybe that's better for you. Maybe with that left knee on top of the ankle, you slide that back foot back a little bit more. And maybe the right hand comes to a block or the floor. Lengthening the spine out of the hips here, turning the chest to the left. And if you want to, you can lift the left hand towards the sky. Breathe. A nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then with your next exhale, lower the left hand down to knee or to floor. Press down to that left foot, slide, wiggle, scoot, step the right foot forward to meet it. Inhale, slide your hands up the legs and lengthen the spine. Exhale, slide down and fold. Press down to the feet, nice long spine. Arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Legs bent or straight, hands to legs, blocks or floor. Inhale, you can slide the hands up the legs and lengthen through the spine. Exhale, slide them down and fold. Bend the knees deeply. See if you can get your palms to the ground. And then walk your feet back away from you. Pressing the hips up, back away from the hands, downward facing dog. Breathing here. With your next exhale, come down to all fours, hands and knees. And then take a moment, making sure the hands are far enough away from the knees that you can lengthen the spine fully. Hands about outer shoulder distance width apart. And feel free to come into a different hand position like fists if that feels better for your wrist. But if your palms are flat, maybe spreading the fingers a little bit apart from each other and noticing where the weight is in your hands, particularly if your palms are flat, because it's very likely that all the weight's back in your wrist. You want your hands to feel nice and connected to the earth, but maybe shifting the weight towards the front of the hands, toward the fingers, pressing down behind the fingernails, the finger pads here. With your next inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale and round the back, look at your navel. Inhale and arch the back, head and tailbone towards the sky. And just moving back and forth to the flow of the breath, connecting this movement to the flow of the breath, and noticing what you're doing as you move. You're rounding and arching the back. Your shoulders are moving on and off the back. Your head and hips are tilting under and up. Your inner thigh muscles are moving forward and back. So with your next inhale, come to a nice extended spine and try to soften the upper back a little bit, right between the shoulders. With your upper back a little bit soft, go ahead and stretch the left leg straight back behind you with your toes curled under, toes on the ground, if that works in your body. Breathe here. Nice, full, deep breath, trying to keep your hips nice and level. On the exhale, go ahead and bend that left knee, and inhale, stretch the right leg back behind you with, if it works for you, toes curled under, knees and toes facing the ground, toes on the ground, core, low ribs gently moving back to protect the low back. Breathing here. And then exhale, go ahead and bend that knee and come into a child's pose. Feet together, knees apart, hips towards your heels, head towards the ground. Breathe. Hips only go as close to the feet as feels good for you. Same with head. So you might be up higher, and this is a lovely place to do child's pose as well. Nice, full, deep breaths. With your inhale, ease your way forward onto your belly, making a pillow for the head with your hands and rocking the hips a little side to side here, if that feels good. Coming back into center with your hips. Feel the hips heavy on the ground. Feel, in fact, every place where your body is in contact to the ground, noticing those spots, and just letting yourself release a little bit, letting yourself feel held by the earth, by the floor. Then becoming more active, pressing down through the hips, balance between your right and the left side, spin your kneecaps to face the ground if they're not already, and stretching back through the legs, your feet, trying to keep your toes on the ground if possible, although you might notice them popping up a little bit. And then pressing the back of your head onto your hands. Inhale, lift up through your elbows, pressing your hips and your toes on the ground as you stretch back through the legs, knees facing down. Breathe. With your next exhale, go ahead and lower the elbows down. Inhale, lift your gaze, arms straight along the sides, but palms can be face up or down. Keep anchoring down through those hips. Inhale, floating up through the shoulders, maybe the chest too. Exhale and lower back down. As you lift up, feel the shoulders moving towards each other on the back, the shoulders leading the way. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, lifting up through the shoulders, maybe the chest too. Feel super, super free to stay here, or if you want to, you can flip your hands to face forward, underneath your elbows or your biceps, pressing down through your fingers here, maybe feeling a little bit of a lightness through the wrist, and feel the shoulders on the back as you feel the chest lengthening forward. Breathe. And then with your next exhale, lower all the way down, rest your head on the hands, maybe rock the hips a little side to side. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. Coming back into center and making your way back into a child's pose. Breathe. With your next inhale, come up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. And again, knees far enough away from the hands that you can lengthen the spine fully. And then here, with your next inhale, I want you to try to lift up through the wrist. And maybe your wrist doesn't actually lift up. Maybe it pulls up a little bit. Maybe you come all the way up to your fingertips. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, try to lift your wrists up. Exhale, lower back down. And it doesn't matter if they lift up, so you're just trying to. Inhale, trying to lift both of your wrists up if possible. Exhale and lower back down. And then just act like you're going to lift the wrist up. You'll just notice that engages the muscles of the palm, which is what we're really attempting to do. It helps take some of the pressure off the wrist. Soften the upper back a little bit. And then with your next inhale, stretch your left leg back behind you. Hips relatively level, knees and toes facing the ground. You can lift the leg up this time if you want to. Exhale, left knee into the nose, rounding the back, hugging in. Inhale, stretch the left leg back behind you. Exhale the left foot forward outside the left hand. So if the foot doesn't quite make it, grab your ankle and go ahead and pull that foot the rest of the way forward. You also might need some extra cushion under the right knee. If you have a little pillow, that's excellent. But you could, even if you don't have anything nearby and you just have a mat, you can fold up a mat and put some more padding under that back knee. From here, inhale, stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips. If your hips are a little bit tight, you might even want to twist a little bit, bringing the left hand to the knee. And then you can gently move your hips a bit from side to side here if this feels good for you. But also feel, again, free to stay still. Coming back into center with the hips, feeling the hips facing the ground here. Maybe heel toeing that left foot a little bit towards the right. Maybe sliding that foot in a little bit for stability. And by the way, your back toes, they can be pointed or they can be flexed. When you feel ready, walking your hands up to that left knee. And again, if you need to adjust things, just adjust, hugging in from your feet to your hips. Hands to your hips, even out the hips, so make sure your hips aren't twisting too much, nice and even. And then maybe anchoring down through the hips, pressing the hips down closer to the ground. Lift the low back up, elbows and shoulders towards each other on the back. Feel the back of your hips lengthening down, feel the low back lifting up, and then you can use the shoulders and bottoms up to the shoulders, can curl the chest a bit towards the sky here. Breathe, nice, full, deep, complete breath. Anjaneyasana variation. With your next inhale, come back to neutral through the chest. Exhale, lower the hands down. Step the left foot back. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. As you stretch the spine nice and long, stretch the right leg back behind you. Exhale, the right knee to the nose, hugging in, rounding the back. Inhale, stretching long, stretching the right leg back behind you. Exhale, the right foot forward outside the hands, and feel free to grab that ankle and pull that foot further forward. So if it's not quite there, just pulling. Lengthen the spine out of the hips here. If your hips are a little bit tighter, feel free to take the right hand up to the leg and do a little bit of a twist here. Maybe gently pressing the thigh open and perhaps staying there. But if you want to, with your hands on the ground, you can gently move the hips a little side to side here. Breathe. Eventually coming into center with your hips, and with your hips facing towards the ground, heel toe the right foot a little bit towards the left, maybe slide it back. Right hand can come up again, feel free to pad back knee. Left hand can come up, hug in from your feet to your hips. Back foot can be pointed or flexed, and then hands to your hips. Muscularly feel the feet on the earth, feel the muscles of the legs engaging, anchoring down to the hips, and then core lifts the low back a little bit out of the hips. Elbows and shoulders towards each other on the back, bottom tips of the shoulder blades, maybe curling the chest towards the sky. Breathe. Nice full deep breaths. Anjaneyasana. With your next inhale, coming back upright. Exhale, lower the hands down. Step the right foot back, all fours. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, round the back and look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. With your next exhale, soften the upper back right between the shoulders a little bit. Feel the bottom toes of the shoulders hugging toward each other. And then curl the toes under, lift the knees up, stretch the hips back, downward facing dog. You can bend and straighten the legs a little bit here, moving the hips a little side to side. And remember that sensation, feeling as though you're going to lift the wrists up, maybe playing around with that to move the weight towards the front of the hands as you press down to the finger pads. As you're ready, you can look forward at your hands, bend the knees, walk your feet towards the hands or the hands towards the feet. Once all the weight's in your feet, you can inhale, slide the hands up the legs and lengthen through the spine. Exhale, slide down and fold in, and then pressing from the feet into the earth. Inhale, nice long spine, arms come wide, reaching up toward the sky. And then exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Feel the earth, the floor steady underneath you. And feel the hips weighted, heavy, anchoring down through the legs to the feet into the floor. But again, maybe the arches lift up a little bit. And on your inhales, maybe feeling yourself again just inflating, expanding from inside out. Breathe. And then with your next inhale, you can go ahead and open the legs nice and wide to the side. Line your feet up with each other here. And then press down through your feet, hug into your hips. And then from here, as you press down through your feet and hug into your hips here, feel the weight even between the right and left foot as much as comfortable. Hands into a T here. And then with your next exhale, we're going to draw the arm bones deeper into the shoulder socket. Pull the bottom tips of the shoulder blades towards each other on the back. And then inhale, we're going to let the arm bones slide out of the shoulder socket. Shoulder blades move away from each other on your back. Exhale, pull the bottom tips of the shoulder blades in towards each other on the back. Arm bones sliding into the shoulder socket. Inhale, arm bones out of the shoulder socket. Bottom tips of the shoulder blades move away from each other. Exhale, arm bones in towards each other. Shoulder blades on the back. Now find a place where your shoulders are a little bit on the back, but maybe not squeezing in for dear life. You feel engaged and supported. You feel like you'll hold your arms in a T for a bit. Notice what that feels like for you. And then we'll release the hands. Bring the hands to the hips. Turn the left toes a little bit towards the right. Right toes all the way to the right side. Open your hips back to the left side, but only as much as feels good for your back and your hips. And with your right knee spinning towards your second toe, inhale and lengthen the spine. Exhale, leaning into that right hip. Inhale, coming back to level through the hips. Exhale, lean into the right hip, lengthen the spine here. Let the right arm maybe just dangle for a moment. So relaxing those shoulder muscles, breathing here. And then maybe engaging them a little bit. So pulling the arm bone a little bit into the shoulder socket here. Shoulders a little bit engaged here. And then pressing your right arm to the right leg, spinning the chest a little bit towards the sky. Pull the left shoulder now rolling onto the back. Maybe lift the left hand to the sky. Head and neck in line with the spine, Trikonasana variation. And if you want to, you can look up, or you can look down, or you can look straight ahead, or you can gently move the head and neck a little bit here. Breathe. And then pressing down to the feet till the hips all the way upright. Right toes turn towards left, left toes all the way out. Hips opening back to the right. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, leaning into that left hip. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, lean into the left hip. Feel the spine lengthening out of the hips. Let the left arm just hang and dangle for a moment. And then feel that left arm bone moving into the shoulder socket, shoulder blade on the back. Press the left arm into the left leg, spinning your chest a bit to the sky. Feel the right shoulder rolling onto the back. If you want to, the right arm can lift up to the sky. Line the head and neck up with the rest of the spine. Maybe pressing the back of your palate, the back of the mouth, the back of your head back a little bit. Anchoring back through the shoulders and the back of the head as you breathe. And again, you can look down, or you can look up, or you can move your head and neck gently here. Breathe. Pressing down to the feet, tilt the hips all the way up. Turn all 10 toes towards the long end of the mat. Hands to your hips, knees a little bit soft. Inhale and lengthen the spine. spine. Exhale, tilting the hips full forward. Stop when the back wants to round. Lengthen the spine here, and then bring your hands someplace comfortable on the legs with your spine extended. Your legs can be bent or straight, lengthening the low back out of the hips. Feel the breath move through you, trying to keep that spinal extension as you maybe slide the hands further down the legs. Pause, feel that spine lengthening, breathe. You can keep your hands on the legs, or you can bring the hands to the floor. And then again, if you like to let the back round, if that feels good for you, you can let the back round and fold in, maybe walking the hands closer to the feet. If the hands were on the legs, you can keep your hands on the legs, breathing wherever you're at. Nice, full, deep breaths. Staying nice and strong and steady through the legs as you're ready. Hands to the hips, shoulders on the back. Inhale, nice long spine all the way up to standing. With your knees soft, heel toe the feet in towards each other. Shake out the legs. And turn and face the front of the mat. Taking a moment, lining yourself up here. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Bend your knees, step back to a downward facing dog. Pressing those hips and the thighs back, lengthening the spine forward out of the hips. Feel a lightness to the wrist. Feel the weight shifting towards your fingers. That's part of that, stretching the spine forward out of the hips. So the hips press back, but your chest, your spine lengthens forward. And then relaxing the upper back right between the shoulders. With your next inhale, shoulders forward over the wrist, plank pose. Feel super, super free to take a pause here and to lower the knees down to the ground or to keep the knees lifted. Breathe. So here, with the weight in the front of the hands, with your arms staying straight, so I don't want you to bend your elbows. I want the arms to be relatively straight here. What I want you to do is exhale, just soften the upper back, letting the arm bones slide deeper into the shoulder socket here. And then inhale, round the upper back, letting the arm bones come out of the shoulder socket. Exhale, make a little valley between the shoulder blades as you soften the upper back with the arm bones sliding into the shoulder socket. Inhale, make a little hill between the shoulder blades as you feel the arm bones sliding out of the shoulder socket, shoulder blades off the back. Exhale, make a valley between the shoulder blades. But if it's a really deep valley, if your arm bones are really deep in the shoulder socket, if you have a lot of mobility in the shoulders, back off a little bit. You just want the arm bones a little bit into the shoulder socket, shoulders gently hugging towards each other on the back. Make sure your core is still engaged. Make sure the breath is still flowing through you. And then come back into a child's pose. And if you want to, you can completely relax the shoulders off the back here. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. With your next inhale, ease your way forward onto your belly. Making a pillow for the head with your hands. Gently rock the hips a bit from side to side. And then coming into center with your hips here. Feel the hips nice and heavy, evenly weighted. Stretching back to the legs, knees facing the ground, feet on the ground. Arms straight along the sides. Pressing down through the hips. Inhale, float up through the shoulders and the chest. Holding here, feel super, super free to stay here. Or you can flip your hands forward, hands underneath the biceps or your elbows, press down through the fingers, maybe feel light through the wrist, maybe even play with lifting the wrist up for a moment here, but feeling light through the wrist, feeling the weight more towards the front of the hands, noticing the shoulders are on the back, and then keeping this lightness to the wrist, slowly start to lift up higher. So as you lift up and you're using your arms more, the weight's gonna try to shift back into the wrist. You're trying to resist that. You're also trying to keep the shoulders a little bit back and away from the ears. Breathe, only coming up as high as feels good for you. And then exhale, slowly lower all the way back down. As you feel ready, coming back into a child's pose. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. With your next inhale, come up to all fours, hands and knees. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Stretch the left leg back behind you. Your foot can be on the ground or lift it. We're going to move the right foot a little bit to the right, maybe, keeping the knee in place. And then you can stack the left hip on top of the right, maybe lifting the left hand up to the sky. Feel the weight in your right hand. And if all the weight's in your wrist, shift the weight towards your fingers. And again, that left foot can be down or lifted. Breathing wherever you're at. Side plank, one of the variations that we usually introduce first. There's another one too, but this is one of the ones we usually introduce first. And then exhale, go ahead and come back to all fours. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. As you inhale, stretch the spine spine nice and long. Stretch the right leg back behind you. Your toes can stay on the ground or lift it. You might move that left foot a little bit to the left, but keep the knee in place. This helps if you lift the leg up for balance. Then stacking the right hip on top maybe, right hand lifting towards the sky. Make sure all the weight doesn't settle back into your left wrist. If you want to lift the right leg up, you can. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then exhale, go ahead and release and come back into a child's pose. But maybe with the arms forward out in front of you if that works for you. And maybe even lifting up to your fingertips. So lifting the wrists up off the ground entirely here. Pressing down through the finger pads, hugging them in towards each other. And feeling the arms, the upper arms near your armpits lifting up. But relaxing and softening the upper back as you release the head and neck down. Breathe. Then with your next inhale, coming up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. And then from here, maybe stepping the right foot so it's about in line with your left knee. And the toes are facing to the right as much as works for you. Now, again, depending on hips, your toes might be facing a little bit more forward. That's fine. But just as much to the side as works for you. And feel this left leg forward. Left thigh pressing back as you lengthen the spine out of the hips here. And then maybe soften upper back just a little bit here. Okay, as you're ready, step that left foot back in. Step the right foot forward, about level with the left knee. And again, toes turning towards the right-ish, but they might be turning somewhat forward. It might be an angle. And as you're here, just feeling that right thigh pressing back, feel the spine lengthening out of the hips. Feel the breath moving through you here. And then as you're ready, exhale back to all fours. And with a nice long spine, with your shoulders gently towards each other on the back, with your core engaged, maybe lift the knees up and press the hips back, downward facing dog. Always feel free to keep your knees bent in downward facing dog, because really you're trying to stretch the thighs and the hips back, lengthening that low back so the hips aren't tucking under if possible. So if you notice your hips are tucking under, then of course bend your knees and really lengthen back and trying to untuck your hips. And then maybe you could even, if you did bend your knees for a moment, act like you're going to stretch your heels back for the wall behind you as you lower them down a bit, stretching out the bottoms of your feet. That could be really yummy. Go ahead, look forward at your hands, bend the knees, walk your feet towards the hands or the hands towards the feet. Once all the weight's in your feet, inhale, sliding the hands up the legs. Exhale, sliding down. Press down to the feet. Nice long spine, arms come wide. Reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Anchoring from the hips down through the feet into the earth. Feeling supported, feeling steady. Feeling the breath moving through you. Feeling an increase of self. Letting yourself settle onto that sense of self. And then as you're ready, exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Feel free to bring your hands to the legs or just shifting the weight to the right foot here. Taking a good size step back with the left foot. Then you can bring your hands back to the legs, right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. And again, that left foot can be closer in or further back. Left heel can be up or down. Press down through your feet, hug into your hips. Leaning forward, bring your hands to your hips. Level out the hips here. Lengthen the spine out of the hips. And then only tilting the hips as upright as feels good for you. You might need to bend the back knee a little bit. You might need to lift your hips up a little higher. Do what works in your body. Breathing here. Feel the elbows and shoulders moving a little towards each other on the back. Back of your hips lengthening down, low back lifting up, but maybe not as deep as a back bend as before. So looking more forward, just a little baby back bend if you want to. And then if you want to, from here, hands can reach up by the ears. Nice, full, deep breath. Warrior one or crescent lunge variation. Some schools of yoga call the back heel lifted crescent lunge as opposed to Virabhadrasana 1, but some schools consider both poses Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. Press down to that right foot, step the left foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Shift the weight to the left foot. Right foot back, hands to the left knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. You can wiggle that right foot back a little bit. Press down to the feet, hug into your hips. Hands to your hips, leveling out the hips, evening them out, lengthen the spine out of your hips, and then maybe tilting the hips as upright as feels good in your body. Press down to the hips, low back lifts up, elbows and shoulders a little bit towards each other on the back,
Chest lifting up a little bit, maybe a little baby back bend, but again, really feel the back of your hips lengthening down. And then if you want to, arms by the ears. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breath. Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. Press down through that left foot, step the right foot forward. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Press down to the feet, nice long spine. Arms come wide, reach all the way towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Inhale, open the legs wide to the side. Line your feet up with each other here. Left toes turn towards right, right toes all the way out, hips opening back to the left, right knee tracking towards second toe. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend, right knee approximately top of the ankle, right hand leaning a little bit to the right, or right forearm on the right leg, whatever again works better for you. Feel the shoulders gently on the back, leaning back a bit here. If you want to, you can lift the left hand up towards the sky, and then if you're feeling nice and strong and steady through the legs, you can open the right arm here too, like we did earlier in triangle pose. And again, feeling the shoulders gently moving towards each other on the back as you press the right arm into the right leg. Breathe. And then staying nice and steady and strong through the legs, tilting the hips a bit more upright, looking over the right arm, Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. And again, your shoulders are a little bit on the back. They're not squeezing in for dear life, but they're not just hanging out there in space. They're a little bit on the back. Breathe. Hands to your hips, soften the left knee, turn the right toes towards the left toes all the way out, hips opening back to the right, left knee tracking towards second toe. Exhale and bend. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend, left forearm to the left leg. Gently press the knee open, lengthen the spine. Maybe leaning back a little bit through the hips, the shoulders, the head. Feel the shoulders gently on the back. Maybe the right arm stretches for the sky here. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you open the left arm too, staying nice and strong and steady through the legs. Pressing that left arm into the left legs a little bit here. Breathe, and then keeping the shoulders gently moving towards each other on the back, tilting your hips upright, hands into a T, looking over the left fingers. Nice full deep breath. Typically we turn the palms down here. You don't have to. You can play with turning them up, see what that feels like. In fact, sometimes you do that to externally rotate the arms first, lift the hands up and turn them up. Keep the upper arms externally rotated and then internally rotate the lower arms. Bring your hands back to your hips, soften your knees. Turn all 10 toes to face the long end of the mat. Inhale and lengthen the spine with your knees a little bit soft. Pivot at the hips, fold forward. Stop where your back wants to round. Stretch the spine nice and long, and maybe this time move the elbows and shoulders towards each other on the back. Although you can repeat the first variation of a wide leg forward fold. If you want to, interlace the hands behind the back here, moving the elbows and shoulders towards each other. Legs can be bent or straight. You can gently let the back round here if you like. And then feel super free to keep your hands on the hips, elbows and shoulders moving in towards each other, or you can stretch the arms straighter. And again, feel free to keep the knees bent, or you can straighten the legs. Nice, full, deep breaths. Also notice if your shoulders are moving down towards the ears or up away, and you can play with that positioning a little bit, whether the shoulders are lifting up or whether the shoulders are lowering down. Not being so much worried about where your hands are in space when you do that, because again, when you lift the shoulders up, you might think, oh, I'm not going as far. No, you're just lifting the shoulders up. So again, playing with where movement is happening in your body. Press down through your feet, nice long spine all the way up. Release the arms, shoulder rolls up and on the back as you heel toe the feet in towards each other. Shoulder rolls can be forward as you shake out the legs a bit. And then coming and standing near the front of the mat. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back. Feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and pull. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Bend the knees, hands to the ground. Step back into a plank pose. Exhale, lower the knees down, point the toes. With your next inhale, chest forward, hips forward and down, shoulders back, only as much as feels good in your body. Exhale, back up to all fours. Inhale, chest forward, shoulders roll back, hips forward and down. Exhale, back up to all fours. Inhale, chest forward, shoulders back, hips forward and down. Holding here if this feels okay for you. And again, your hips might be up quite a bit higher, that's fine. If you want to, you can press down to your feet and lift your knees up, but try to keep pulling the shoulders back. Core is engaged to protect the low back here as you breathe in an upward facing dog. Exhale, lower the knees down and come into a child's pose. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. With your next inhale, ease your way forward onto your belly. Making a pillow for the head with your hands, gently rock the hips a little side to side. And then coming back into center with your hips here, pressing down through the hips, stretching along through the legs. Arms by the sides, fingers pointing towards the toes. Inhale, lifting up through the shoulders and the chest here. Feel free to stay here or flipping the hands forward, acting like you're dragging them back. Feel the shoulders on the back, feel the weight in the front of the hands. And again, slowly, with control, trying to keep space in the low back, trying to keep the shoulders on the back, trying to let the chest lead the way, the chest pulling forward through the shoulders, coming up as high as works for you in a cobra, which means that typically a part of your hips are still on the ground for cobra. Now, if that doesn't work for your low back and you need to lift up the hips and come into an up dog, that is fine. Do again what works best for your body. Breathing wherever you're at. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then exhale, lower all the way back down. Rest your head on the hands. Gently rock the hips a little side to side. Coming back into center with the hips as you feel ready. And easing your way back into a child's pose. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. Inhale, up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch your spine nice and long. Exhale, downward facing dog. Okay, from here, we're going to come into another side plank variation. And if you want to, what you'll do from here is shift the weight into the right hand and turn all 10 toes to the left. Now, if this doesn't work for you, you can lower the right knee back down. So either side plank here again, if that works for you, or keeping the right leg lifted, turning your toes to the side, and side plank with both knees lifted. But again, only would do what works in your body in this practice. Exhale, go ahead and come back to downward facing dog. And then shifting your weight into your left hand, maybe turning the toes to the side here. Again, being careful of where the weight is in the hand. So trying to move the weight out of the wrist and lifting the right hand up. But again, left knee down or left knee lifted. Nice, full, deep breaths. Go ahead and lower the right hand back down, pressing back into a downward facing dog. And then as you're ready, look forward at the hands, bend the knees, walk your feet towards the hands or the hands towards the feet. Once all the weight's in your feet, you can inhale, slide the hands up, the legs lengthen to the spine. Exhale, slide down and fold, press down to the feet. Nice long spine, arms come wide, reach all the way up to the sky. If you want to, you can interlace the hands, turn the palms away from you, stretching out through your wrists this way, anchoring from the hips down to the feet to the earth. Low ribs lifting up, shoulders can be towards the ears, or if you prefer away from the ears, you can have the shoulders away from the ears. And then exhale, go ahead and release the hands. Bring your hands into a fist. Just do circles. And you can circle in both directions as you breathe. Okay. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and shake out your wrists. And we're going to do balancing. So sticky mats are not actually necessarily the best surface to bounce on. So if you want to take a step off your sticky mat, you can. When you feel ready, go ahead and shift your weight into your right foot. Hands can just be in a T. Come to your left toes and maybe crossing that left ankle over the right. Letting that knee press open. Now, if this crossing over doesn't feel good for you, you can be here. And then if it works for you, go ahead and lift that left foot up here. Breathing, and feel free again to stay here. Again, just letting that knee kind of press open. But if all this feels really good for you, what you might do is try to grab the right ankle or left ankle with your right hand. You might have to lift it. You want to lift the knee up really to do that initially. But then go ahead and pull that foot up higher. Let the knee drop down. Hand can be in T. Left arm can reach for the sky. Left hand can be on the heart. Whatever works for you. Moving a bit towards a half lotus position, but really not trying to get anywhere particular. Breathe. And if you fall, you fall. Just stay with your breath. And then go ahead, release, shake it out a little bit. And second side. So hands into a T, shoulders gently on the back. Crossing the right ankle over, breathing here. And again, if you want to lift that foot up, and breathe here. Feel super, super free to stay here. This is a great place to be. Or if you want to, go ahead and grab the right foot with the left hand. Maybe lift the foot up higher. Maybe let the knee relax down a little bit. Maybe right arm by the ear. Maybe right hand it to the heart. For some reason, when I stick out my tongue, I think I'm going to balance. I don't know where that comes from. Breathe. And then when you're ready, go ahead, release, check it out, and come back to standing near the front of the mat. Lining your feet up with each other, a comfortable distance width apart, hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, feel the breath moving through you. Exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale and fold. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and fold. Bend the knees, hands to the ground. Step back into a plank. Feel super, super free to lower the knees down. Core engaged. Shoulders a little bit on the back. Head and neck in line with the rest of the spine. And then trying to keep your hips more level. Trying not to let the hips sag. So before we're letting the hips come forward and down, trying to keep the hips lifted a little bit. Here, slowly with control. This might take more than one breath. Bending the elbows, keep the shoulders on the back, and make your way all the way down to your belly. You might have to adjust once you're there. Press down through the hips, stretch long through the legs. If you want to, you can keep the shoulders leading the way and lift up to a cobra. You can stay really low here, so never feel the need to lift up high. Again, though, maybe notice where the weight is in your hands and play around with that. Exhale, you can lower all the way back down, and then pressing down through the hands and knees. Inhale, up to all fours. Exhale, round the back and look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long, and step the right foot forward with your right toes facing more towards the side, breathing here. Okay, so here you have an option. You always have options, but a particular one here. And that is you can either, or this is a left foot forward, sorry. Left foot forward. I'm so used to mirroring, sometimes I say opposite side. So left foot forward, left toes turning out to the side. You can keep your right knee on the ground, or if you want to, you can curl the right toes under and lift that knee up. And you can, with the knee on the ground or lift it, you can come into a twist. So you can lift the left hand to the sky, and again, knee on the ground or lift it. Breathing here, nice full deep breaths. Okay, exhale. If you did lift the right knee up, maybe lower it down, step the left foot back. Second side, so right foot forward, about level to the left knee, somewhere in there, so about level with your hips really. Lengthen the spine here, and again, left knee can stay on the ground, and you can twist here, or if you want to, you can lift that left knee up, and you can twist here, breathing wherever you're at. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then exhale, go ahead, lower left knee down, right hand down, step the right foot back, and come for a moment into a child's pose. So we're going to do the side plank variation that I was talking about earlier with the hip opener, and it's this leg position we've been working on with the foot forward, the foot facing out to the side. So inhale, come up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine long. Step the right foot forward, turning those toes out if that works for you. Press the thigh back. And for the side plank variation, you would need the back knee lifted. But again, feel free to repeat any of the postures we did before. What you're going to do now is you're going to keep your hips or your chest facing the ground, but you're going to turn the hips to the left. So to do that, you're going to let the right hip drop below the left a little bit and let your hips start to turn to the side. And then you're going to lift the left hand up. So now instead of your hips facing the ground and in a twist, your hips are facing the side. Side plank variation, breathing here. And then you can go ahead and turn the hips and the chest back down if you want to, and step back, coming through a plank, downward facing dog, lower down to all fours, and then stepping that right foot forward about level with the knee. And as you're ready, lifting the left foot up. And again, right now your hips are facing probably more towards the ground. So you're going to turn the hips to the right. You're going to let that left hip drop. You're going to turn the toes maybe all the way to the side. You could do a little adjustments. I'm adjusting where my feet are on the mat just for stability. And then if you want to, the right hand can lift up. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then go ahead and turn the hips and the chest back down, step back, maybe plank pose, maybe all forward, coming into a child's pose. Feel the breath moving through you here. The way we used to always come into it is the way we're going to do now, which, again, now that you kind of have the pose down, might not feel so unusual for you. So as you're ready, go ahead, come up to all fours. Exhale, shoulder blades a little bit on the back. Inhale, downward facing dog. Trying to keep your hips nice and level facing the ground. Go ahead and lift that left leg up. So trying to keep your knees and toes facing the ground. And then exhale, step the left foot forward about where your hips are, turning the left toes to the left. Let your hips turn to the side. So letting that right hip drop and letting the left hand lift up. Side plank. Breathe. And then go ahead, let the hips and the chest turn back down and step the left foot back downward facing dog. Keeping your hips facing the ground if that works for you. Lift the right leg up, so try not to let the hips open to the side if you can. Keeping them facing the ground just to work the muscles there. And then exhale, go ahead and step the right foot forward towards the hip. Turn the toes out. Right now your hips and your chest are facing the ground. So now maybe let your hips turn to face the side. Letting that left hip drop a little bit. Lifting them up away from the ground as a unit. Right hand can lift up to the sky, breathing here. What I mean by a unit is you can let the hips sag down to the ground. And this is actually a lovely pose too. Or you can let them lift up for the side plank. Breathe. And then go ahead and turn back down. Downward facing dog. Bending and straightening the legs, lengthening out the spine. And as you're ready, go ahead and come into a child's pose. Breathing here. Nice full deep breath. Maybe bring your arms along the sides and relaxing the shoulders entirely. Okay. And then feel the shoulders moving a little bit on the back. Even in this position, spread your fingers apart. Try to press down onto fingernails. And maybe bend your elbows out to the side a little bit, sliding your hands closer to your knees. Keep your fingers in the back of the hands pressing into the ground. Inhale, lifting up a little bit through the torso until you feel a nice stretch through the wrists. And then exhale and lower down. And if you don't feel much of a stretch, then you bend your elbows more and you slide your hands up closer to your knees. Inhale, coming more upright. Yeah. Exhale and lower back down. And then for the last one, if you want to, you can try hand and fist, pressing the back of the hands down. Inhale and lifting up here. Exhale and lower back down. And then just go ahead and release. As you're ready, come to a comfortable sitting. If low kneel is comfortable for you, if you can keep your hips on your feet and come up, you can do that. But any comfortable sitting position, because honestly, we're just going to shake our wrists out a little bit. Do some circles. And change the direction of the circles. And then as you're ready, we'll come into sitting with the legs straight forward out in front of us. Knees and toes pointing up to the sky. Hands back behind us a little bit. Fingers can be facing forward or out to the side here. And then untuck your hips. Lift up through the low back. Open through the chest. Open through the throat. Then that's the variation. Knees and toes pointing up to the sky. Legs anchoring down. And then keep your hips from tucking under. Walk your hands forward. So head and chest will come to neutral, but you're trying to lift the low back up out of the hips. You might need to bend your knees if you notice your hips tucking under. You want your hips to try not to tuck under so much. Lengthening the spine out of the hips. Breathe. And then when you're ready here, you can hug the left knee in towards the chest, giving yourself a little squeeze here. Then lengthen through the spine. Right arm can come across the left leg, left hand back behind you, twisting. Feel free to stay here. Feel free to lean back a bit to give yourself a bit more room. Feel free to cross right arm over left leg. And then go ahead and unwind. Second side, left leg straight. Squeezing that right leg in, just hugging in a bit here. And then lengthening to the spine here. Left arm across, right hand can be back behind you. Breathing here, and again, leaning back if you like. Staying more upright if you prefer. Left arm can cross over leg, palm can be face up. This is a little bit more challenging. I'm internally rotating through the shoulder, but trying to keep the shoulder on my back, just a heads up. This could be a challenging position for shoulders. And then go ahead and unwind. Right leg forward out in front of you. Hands on either side of the hips, untucking. And again, bending your knees enough so you can sit up nice and tall and untuck. And then from here, go ahead and walk your hands forward. But trying to lengthen through the spine, sitting up nice and tall. And then what we're going to do is try not to hold on to the legs if that works for you. Keep on walking the hands forward on the ground. And then wherever your body tells you to stop, and remember, you never want to be at 100% in yoga class. That's too much. Back off if you feel like you're at 100%. But wherever you end up, just inhale and get that really big inflation through the spine, through the torso. Feel the vertebrae of the spine lengthening away from each other and just expanding, inflating through the torso, feeling a fullness from inside out as you breathe. So making space in between the vertebrae. And then if you want, you can grab wherever it's comfortable to grab and gently fold in. Breathe. And then as you're ready, come all the way upright and making your way onto your back. So you can just ease your way onto your back, hugging the knees into the chest, coming into a ball, gently rocking. And then either letting go of the knees or holding on to the knees, drawing circles on the ceiling with the knees, massaging out the hips and the low back a little bit, letting the hips move around on the ground, going in the other direction. And then with your knees bent, you can lower the feet to the ground about hip distance apart. And just feel the feet nice and heavy on the earth, even between the right and the left foot, also even between the inner and outer edges of the feet. Feel nice and heavy through your hips, even between the right and the left side. Low back has a little bit of an arch here. You might be able to slide a hand or two underneath the low back. That's a natural arch in the spine. You actually want that there a lot of the time. So just notice if that's there for you. If not, and you can artificially create that with your muscles and it doesn't cause you pain, maybe play around with doing that. Shoulders nice and heavy. Neck, again, there's an arch here. So if you notice your neck is flat, play around with lifting it up perhaps a little bit. And usually you do that by tilting your head up a little bit to artificially create the arch, which is why I often stay in this position. Your chin could be neutral or slightly lifted. Arms along the sides here, palms facing down, fingers pointing towards the toes. With your next inhale, you can slide the shoulders up towards the ears. And exhale, wiggle the shoulders underneath you on the back. So now you're going to lift the spine in between the shoulders up. Typically the spine in between the shoulders is relaxing down, but now you're going to lift the spine in between the shoulders up if that feels okay for you, which will bring your back into one big arch. Your hips are on the ground, your head is on the ground, but the rest of your spine is now in one big arch shape instead of the natural curves of the spine. Feel free to stay here. Or if you want, you can stretch your knees forward and float the hips up, and then exhale and lower them back down. Inhale, stretching the knees forward, floating the hips up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale, stretch the knees forward, float the hips up. Feel free to stay here, maybe grabbing the outside edges of your mat. Act like you're going to pull the mat apart. Maybe wiggle the shoulders underneath you more. Press down through your feet, press down through the shoulders, press down through the back of your head. As you stretch your hips and the knees forward, floating the hips up, lift the spine in between the shoulders up, lifting up through your chest, and stretch your chest away from your hips and your knees. Breathe, bridge pose variation. And then as you feel ready, you can lower the hips all the way down. You can relax the spine in between the shoulders, coming more back to natural curves of the spine. Bring the hands to the tops of the thighs. Press the thighs away from you, lengthening out the low back a little bit as you sway the knees a bit from side to side here. Breathe. Eventually coming into center from here and hugging the knees into the chest, coming a bit into a ball, giving yourself a bit of a squeeze, rocking. And then coming into center from here, coming into a position where you could press down to the shoulders and the back of the head. So for that, but a lot of people, that might be T position, it might be airplane position, it might be W position, it might be cactus position, but anchoring down through the shoulders and the back of the head. Feet can come down to the ground for a gentler twist or can stay lifted for a bit of a deeper twist. And then when you're ready, you can exhale the knees over to the right side. Inhale up to center. Exhale the knees to the left side. Inhale up to center. Exhale to the right. Inhale to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale to the right. Holding the knees over the right side. Feeling the left shoulder nice and heavy on the ground or moving towards the ground. If you'd like to turn your head, if that feels good for your neck, you could turn your head either to the left or to the right, but just coming to a place that feels really good for you. Breathe. When you feel ready, inhale up through center. Exhale, knees to the left side. And again, right shoulder relaxing towards the ground. Feel the breath moving through you. If you like to turn your head, you can turn your head. And then when you feel ready, go ahead, unwinding back to center. Hug the knees into the chest, coming into a ball. Give yourself a squeeze. Rocking. Feel free to stay in more of a ball shape, or if you want, you can open the knees wider apart, lengthening a bit through the spine, maybe pressing the knees away from you, feeling your hips heavy, and keeping your hips a bit heavier. Pull the knees in towards the ground on either side of you or towards your armpits. Rocking here, and if you want, you can flip your feet up to the sky, holding on to back of knees, lower legs, or feet as you rock from side to side here. All of these are considered variations of happy baby pose. Eventually coming into center and a full body stretch. Stretch the arms up above the head, legs along the floor. Lengthen the back of your hips towards your feet. And then final relaxation. So if Shavasana feels good for you, you can come into Shavasana, arms by the sides in the airplane position. palms facing up toward the sky, legs opening wider apart than the hips, back of your hips lengthening towards your feet. But if this doesn't feel great for you, feel free to experiment. Mainly you want your spine neutral and supported. So you can have your hands someplace else. Some people like palms to face down. If you feel a little bit anxious or unsteady, sometimes palms down feels better, palms on belly, or just turning the hands to face down. Or if legs straight bothers your back, then a lot of times people will bend the knees and have the feet on the ground. You can also have knees together and open the feet wider apart, coming into a stretch here. Or you can have the feet together, knees wide apart, coming into a stretch here. But only do these things if they're really comfortable for you, if you can stay here for a bit. So notice where you feel comfortable and supported and held and where you can stay. Some people like to be on their side. That also works, coming onto your side. You might have to figure out where your arms can be. Sometimes something between your legs, and sometimes people will even try to use their own fist to keep their sacroiliac joint in line. Helps out here. And you can even be in sitting if sitting's really comfortable for you. Again, if you are doing sitting, you might want to sit on something so you can just settle down a little bit more and feel heavy and not feel the hips really engaging here. But sitting, if sitting is comfortable for you, is fine as well. Once you find the position that works for you, let the eyes be soft or closed and feel the breath moving through you. And notice all the places where you're connected down into the support of something. So if you're sitting on something, for instance, it might not be the ground or the floor, but just notice those points where your body is connected, where your body feels heavy. And let yourself, maybe on the exhales, just settle into those points. Let yourself really feel held and supported. Let yourself feel a bit nurtured as you exhale and breathe here. And then on the inhales again, finding a fullness, expanding from inside out and increasing. So a lot of times in a lot of practices, we try to move away from a sense of self. And I'm saying this really cautiously because some of these ideas can get a little bit complex. But before we do that, you actually might want to move into a sense of self. So in our daily lives, we're often doing things or involved or engaged in tasks. And so we're not necessarily settled into ourselves, into our bodies. And before you move into the philosophical realms of moving away from the sense of self so much, sometimes it's a good idea to first really ground yourself into a sense of self. So it's okay here to really inhale and then to inflate your sense of self, to feel larger and grander. And again, maybe letting the skin just soften onto the sense of self. So initially letting yourself come into the sense, enlarging it, letting it be big, letting it feel full, letting yourself be grand, letting it be supported. And then with your exhales, again, just letting yourself be held, letting yourself be settled, letting yourself release. And even here, we can play now with maybe letting the sense of self dissolve a little bit. So again, if that's not comfortable for you, and there's lots of people that's not comfortable for, that causes them to go into disassociation. And if that's you, then stay with your sense of self. It's a wonderful place to be. But if you want to, you can release a little bit of the sense of self into the earth, into the ground, and let yourself really be held in such a way that it feels like you're not losing sense of self in a bad way, but instead you're just so supported that you don't have to be so engaged in maintaining it. You can let go of the breath whenever you feel as relaxed as you're going to be. And just let yourself be here. And you can stay here as long as feels good for you. I'm going to finish this video with an Om, but you can stay wherever you're at for as long as you want to. Recommended time is usually 10 minutes to start, 5-10 minutes to start, and then to go from there. I'm just going to end the video now with an Om.